of how the new system handles this versus the old one. So in the old system, when you run a search for wellness, you're presented with, so you're in the macroculture and you're presented with 200 topics, 200 of the dominant topics that consumers relate to the context of wellness. And then your task as a user is, if you think of each of these topics as a door, your task is to basically open each and every one of these doors to see where it leads. Now, what typically happens is, as you start to open some of these doors, you'll find that a lot of the doors lead to the same room. So for example, let's take a simple example here. You might find that the term psychological health or the psychological well or psychological well-being or psychological wellness, you might find that each one of these doors actually leads to the same room. And so this process of opening these doors, trying to figure out where does it lead, what is it indicating, what kind of meaning does it suggest? This is obviously a painstaking process, and that's why you use our researchers. But when you're self-serving, it can be a deterrent to diving deep into the analysis because it takes some time to open some of these doors and figure it out. So the mission we embarked on was, if a lot of these doors are leading to the same room, how can we use machine intelligence in order to collapse each of these doors into one single door, so that as a user, you then only have to open one door, and every door you open, you know very clearly that it's going to lead to a very specific room that you can go dive into and explore. So in essence, what we did was created and leveraged machine intelligence in order to pre-cluster these topics, so that the pre-clustering is in essence the machine telling us that here are the maximum number of possible microcultures in the wellness space. And so now, instead of opening 200 doors to figure out what rooms exist behind them, we only have to open anywhere between 20 and 30 doors. So straight away, it condenses the amount of exploratory time needed at the macro level in order to identify microcultures and begin our deep dive exploratory work. So what happens here in the new version, which is just launched, is that now, instead of seeing 5, 7 terms that all relate to psychological health or psychological well-being, you're actually only seeing one term. And that's because what the machines figured out is that there are a bunch of doors that all lead to the same room around psychological health. So semantically, they're all related. They all point to the same culture. And because they all point to the same culture, it has collapsed all of that and identified one possible microculture around psychological health. So now, instead of opening 7, 8 doors, you only have to open one door in order to dive into this microculture. And in essence, that's exactly what you're going to do now. So you're going to click on psychological health. The moment you click it, you can now click microculture, and you can add it into your microculture tab and then basically dive into that microculture. Now, before I do that, I do want to illustrate that now when you click the term psychological health, straight away, we also present you with the maturity and population size, as well as the prediction. So straight away, you can see that psychological health in the context of wellness is something that is in fact continuing to mature. And now that you know it's continuing to mature, you can click microculture. It adds itself into the microculture tab, hit apply, give it a few seconds, and then now you're diving into that microculture. So at this stage, you're back to sort of the same process that you're all accustomed to, you're all used to in the existing system. Because in the existing system, it's the same thing. Once you identify a microculture, you pop it into your microculture tab, you hit apply, and then you dive into that microculture, right? So really what this feature is built to do is to condense these 200 doors that you're opening into just about 30 doors. So you're saving an incredible amount of time at the front end of macro exploration so that you can quickly identify microcultures. And the system, the machine is helping you, the machine intelligence is helping you quickly identify the microcultures so that you can then add them into the microculture tab and dive into them to do to begin your deep dive exploratory journey. Now, the other thing that I also do want to point out that is very unique and very interesting about what we've built with our technology, and I'll go back here and just run the search on wellness just to illustrate this to you. when you run the search and you're presented with the potential microcultures, the machine characterized microcultures, one thing you'll notice on the right side, and this is only if you have a subscription to Signals, is for those of you who do have a subscription to Signals, you will now get Signals integrated into the technology straight away. So what that means is now at a click of a button, when you run a search, you can click the themes right here and you can select Signals, and in a few seconds, it will allow you to also see the dominant signals in the context of wellness as well. So what this is allowing you to do is allowing you to on the fly explore signals and contrast that with the dominant themes or the dominant microcultures. So this is also very interesting, obviously. So for example, I can show you that if you're seeing signals around brain health, inflammatory properties, there's some stuff about cell turnover. And when I switch it back to themes, so the dominant meanings, you'll find that I don't see anything about, actually brain health does show up there, but you don't see anything about cells in particular. I don't see anything here. I do see some stuff about nutrition, but I don't see stuff around nutritionists. I also don't notice that in Signals, you see inflammation. Inflammation doesn't come up in themes. So straight away, it's showing you that there's a subtle but a significant difference between what is dominating in the culture of wellness in people's minds versus what could dominate into the future. So that's a really cool integration here. So you go into Signals, you click inflammatory properties, and then it behaves the same way. You can instantly see that, oh, interesting, inflammatory properties is growing in the context of wellness. So now I can add it as a microculture and dive into it to explore it. And once I dive in to explore it, I can start to learn more about exactly what it is and what it potentially does.